this could be for both of you in this case. Let me see, where was it about? Okay, I lost one. I'm going to come back to it in a second. But Karina asks, whose idea is it to shoot some of the characters in scenes with the actors slightly off center? Seems deliberate. That's a very good question. As opposed to, tight shot, well, not too many tight shots, but deliberately off center.
Yeah, heavy to one side or the other. That's usually, if it's a combination, it could be. I mean, that was very early on. I think it was when Vince and Peter were talking about a look for the show. That was something they were interested in and carried over. They were sort of they didn't do a Bible, but they had shots that they were interested in copying and looking at, and certainly off-center things and something framed heavy to one side. That was a style they wanted to introduce early on. Something that we kind of lost. Early on, they were very interested in long 70s-style zooms, and I think we dropped away from that. We don't do that as much anymore, but it comes up every once in a while.
Yeah, no, we've done a couple and they're really been special and fun, and yeah, absolutely. But you're right, they don't come along very often. I mean, it's so hard to zoom that far and have the time for it, right? I mean, you really have to have, and then this is a show that gives time for anything, right? And we have a hard time finding it, so it's takes its time and really lets the show develop, the story develop. But I mean, part of it, I would say that we actually balance those two things, with off-center frames versus even sometimes, very symmetrical stuff. To the point where sometimes, Paul's got a tape measure out there measuring the edges of the mat box to whatever it is that we're centered on. So it's a good balance. And a lot of it has to do with Paul and Matt, that they both have great taste in frames like that, and they pitch a frame and we go for it,
Yeah, and that's, again, such a lifesaver on set when you shoot one side of a character talking, and then you want to go to the other side and match it, and they'll know what to do, how they have to frame it, so that when you're in a cutting pattern, it doesn't. Because if something is off, it just you'll notice it in editing, and it's just unappealing. But these guys frame it up in a way that you just feels smooth when you're cutting back and forth between characters talking.
Who's really good at that is Paul, because he's, Paul told me a story one time. He actually did Horatio Hornblower in England, and they only built one side of the ship, and so anytime they had to be on the port side, they had to flip everything, all the signage and the wardrobe and everything backwards, and they shot it backwards. Talk about getting screwed up to which side of the line you're supposed to be on, right? Oh my gosh! Yeah. Anyway,
that's amazing.
I was blown away. So I've never doubted his screen direction since. Like, it's like, okay, you win.
That's hard. It's so hard to keep track of. I mean, that's when I do storyboards. I will have to write down, okay, character looks from left to right, so that I can just look at it and have a visual reminder. Because I cannot. It's so hard to keep track of all that stuff.
Yeah. I like the fact that you talked about doing some of these things on purpose, like in, and Marshall, I'm sure you agree with this with photography, anything in life as well, too. You know the rules and you break it, but photography, the rule of thirds, where you're going to put your horizon, where you're going to put your subject. And I tend to do that a lot of times as well, too. I can't stand when I do any kind of demonstration videos of filming myself dead center. I know I'm dead center in my little window right now, but I always like to be either far left or far right. I mean, I'm kind of, leaving room for if I want to put some overlays, I'm thinking ahead, but I like to be off frame. And to me, that's just a comfort zone. So it's kind of cool when we get to see that. Not everyone's like tight zoomed in the dead center of the screen, and you use it very creatively. So.
Yeah, well, one of the other things that we that I was first kind of informed by Michael Slovis in one of our first dinners when I was on Breaking Bad, that because he and I both came from CSI, which was it was kind of a smoke and mirror situation, but was everything is based in the story, that's driven by story. So a lot of those off-center frames oftentimes will have something in that other side that's telling a story point. So that's something that we really strive for, that those frames aren't just interesting to be interesting, but they actually have a story point in them.
Yeah. Here's a question